Oh, good evening, everyone, and good evening from London, and good evening from me, Dr. Dermot Hudson, the chairman of the British Group for the Study of the JUCHE and chairman of the Korean Friendship Association of the UK. And a warm welcome to our second KFA UK British Group for the Study of the JUCHE live broadcast. And tonight we were originally going to speak a bit about International Women's Day and the abolition of taxation in the DPRK, which of course is big news. But however, before I sort of start talking about the prepared subjects, uh, you know, the other sort of very, I think, big news for all supporters of People's Career, particularly KFA, is the fact that YouTube, which is owned by the US monopoly capitalist tech giant Google, actually deleted our other channel, the official channel, the Korean Friendship Association of the UK, which is like the fraternal or sister channel of this one. That got well, it wasn't actually deleted; it was disabled, so we can't access it at all to upload videos, and it is scheduled for deletion. And this has not only happened to us, also KFA Turkey had their uh, channel similarly disabled, and I believe the Explore DPRK initiative of Poland had the same thing done to them, and also a Brazilian comrade who had a channel that was also disabled. So that's at least 4 pro DPRK channels that have been disabled by Google, who cite sanctions apparently for being the reason that these channels are operated on behalf of a sanctioned party, quote unquote, which is actually not true at all. I am a British citizen. I've always been a British citizen. I live in London, and I think people from the other channels are, people from Turkey or from Brazil or Poland. There's no one from the DPRK actually involved in running the channels. It's just basically complete stuff and nonsense. Complete baloney with no actual factual basis at all. What it's really about, it's about censorship. It's about stopping the truth about People's Career from being known to a wider audience. It's about repressing the true facts about People's Career, because our KFA UK channel had many videos about the DPRK, which accurately showed life in the DPRK without the lies, distortion, and manipulation of the mainstream media. And so did the other channels. So it's about trying to suppress alternative information about People's Career and to basically take control of the narrative. And it's a fact anyway that for every single pro DPRK social media outlet, I mean, there's at least 100 anti DPRK outlets, if not more, maybe 1,000 to one. So it's already a very unequal and unfair battle. But Google have, kicked the underdog in the teeth, basically, by doing what they've done. We've also lost a lot of videos that we had on on the channel. It's quite an outrageous act. And we ask, who the hell elected Google, who elected Google, who voted for them. In fact, who voted for Bill Gates, or who voted for Elon Musk, or Mark Zuckerberg. I will refrain from using the rhyming slang about Zuckerberg. I mean, everybody knows what his name rhymes with. And some people call him Mark Hitlerberg. I mean, we've had trouble with Facebook in the past. We had built up an impressive KFA UK page, which actually got up to 12,000 followers on Facebook, an incredible number. But Facebook, first of all, labeled the page North Korea state-controlled media, quote unquote. And that was the first sign of trouble from Facebook. Then they deleted various posts or banned them, saying that they were spam. I think the South Koreans were actually reporting the page as, for spamming, supposedly. And then from about 2022 or 2021, we had a lot of trouble with posts being banned and deleted. And finally, 1 year ago, the original KFA UK page was deleted by Facebook, within about 2 days. Again, we lost a lot of materials. We put on it a lot of information, a lot of videos and pictures. These were wiped out by the destructive action of Mark Hitlerberg, or the other name I have for Zuckerberg, which I won't use here. But this very arbitrary and dictatorial action wiped out a lot of work. At the same time, Facebook actually allowed, despite many complaints we made against it, they allowed a fake KFA UK page, which was set up by a traitor to KFA UK with the express purpose of harassing and victimizing and denigrating KFA members and officials. We complained many times, but Facebook, Fascist Book, would not take down the page, but they took down our page. But back to the issue of YouTube channels being disabled or deleted by YouTube. It's a totally outrageous act of censorship and repression. It proves how false the propaganda about human rights, freedom, and democracy is, because all the time the elite, the ruling class in Western countries, in the capitalist countries and imperialist countries, are trying to suppress alternative information and to take control of the narrative and to wipe out anything that doesn't conform with their views. And we are living in an era of basically liberal fascism. Now, some people may scoff at that, but that's what we have. It is liberal fascism. I think fascism has changed a lot. It first began in Italy in the 1920s under a character called Mussolini, who created gangs of former army officers to actually beat up socialists and communists and beat up rebellious farmers and workers who were taking over factories. That's how fascism began. But it's evolved and developed a lot now. And the real fascism comes from within the deep state apparatus of many of the imperialist countries, and from the elites in these societies who proclaim themselves liberal, but in fact are very intolerant of people with different opinions, whether it is to the left of them or the right of them. You know, there you are. We've all got to, I think, unite and stand against the censorship by Google and YouTube, and continually increase our propaganda work as much as we can. You know, and I think people should stick together. And obviously, the best way of defending people's career with no ifs or buts is to join KFA and to work in KFA. And, you know, we're countering the social media censorship by the likes of Google and fascist book, Instagram, and so on, by using Telegram. We've got a Telegram channel and a JUCHE Sungun Telegram channel. So if you're not already a subscriber to those channels, please subscribe. Anyway, on to some positives. Today is March the 8th. It's International Women's Day. It's a very, very important day. And in people's career, it is actually a public holiday. Yeah, it's a public holiday. And, you know, it's taken very seriously in people's career. There'll be sort of meetings of the Women's Union, different events like meetings, art performances and picnics. And in the DPRK, you've got a number of things that are named after March the 8th. I mean, you've got a March the 8th kindergarten in Sarawon City. There's actually a March the 8th hotel. And you also, in people's career, you have International Women's Day cards, which we don't in the West, or at least I haven't seen any. You know, haven't been down to Card Factory recently, but I'm sure I've never seen International Women's Day cards in there. I mean, a stand open to correction. In fact, slightly digressing here, you can't even get St. Patrick's Day cards now in the Card Factory, but that's another matter. Anyway, so women in people's career actually get given cards and presented with flowers. This is because in people's career, women are respected as well as having legal gender equality. And in people's career, women's equality is quite real, and it's not just talk. And right from day one, people's career set about liberating women from feudalistic oppression. On the 30th of July 1946, the Provisional People's Committee of North Korea passed the law on sexual equality for the first time in history, giving women equal rights with men. Later, gender equality was enshrined in the constitution of the DPRK, and other legislations protecting the rights of women was passed. Measures have been taken to realise women's equality in practice, such as the provision of free childcare, including 24/7 nurseries. Yes, 24/7 nurseries. In people's career, the amount of maternity leave increased from 77 days in the 1970s to 150 days in the 1980s. And a few years later, it was actually increased to over 200 days, which can be supplemented by regular and additional holidays. Women who have more than 3 children can work for 6 hours but get paid for an 8-hour day. This is something unheard of in capitalist society. As President Kim Il-sung explained, and I quote, "If a society is to run normally, women who account for one half the population, must play their role satisfactorily if we are to revolutionise and working class size the whole of society. We must also revolutionise and working class size women, just as a wagon cannot run smoothly if only one of its wheels functions, so society cannot develop on a sound basis when only men fulfill their duties. Only when women are revolutionized and actively participate in the revolution construction can the whole of society be revolutionized and working class sized. End of quotation. Now, there will be those who will argue, not in the ranks of KFA, but, some so-called critics of the DPRK will argue that all capitalist countries have legislation guaranteeing women's rights and sexual equality. However, there's one massive difference between People's Korea and capitalist countries that makes life for women in People's Korea qualitatively better. The absence of the so-called sex industry, pornography, prostitution, and decadence that not only exist in Western countries, but have become all pervasive over the past 50 years. In People's Korea, there's no page free of The Sun. And for people outside the UK, The Sun is a notorious right wing tabloid newspaper owned by Rupert Murdoch, which from the 1970s began to show on page 3 a picture of a naked woman. And you can't buy pornography in the shops in the DPRK, and you won't see a so-called sex shop in the DPRK. There's no prostitution in the DPRK. The 1946 law on sexual equality abolished all forms of prostitution in all its forms. And Article 249 of the DPRK criminal code makes prostitution an offence. In the West, women are not equal with men, but are sex objects. The prevalence of pornography in capitalist countries creates an environment in which there is a great deal of sexual violence against women. In People's Korea, women are truly liberated because of the morally wholesome environment that people-centered socialism has created. Long live March 8th, International Women's Day. Long live People's Korea, land of true women's equality. And coming on to the next subject, which is the abolition of taxation in the DPRK. We are in the UK, and I think people in other countries watching this are used to taxes going up and up and up. For example, take council tax. Something I hate paying. I wish I didn't have to pay council tax. The UK media is reporting that most areas in the UK will have council tax increases at the maximum level. And one headline said, and I quote, Matt, UK's biggest council tax rises as nearly all the authorities plan maximum rise. And this was in the Independent, and it went on to write, nearly all councils are planning to raise council tax by the maximum amount permitted without holding a referendum. New analysis shows amid a crisis in local authority funding. And it went on. All but 8 of the 136 top-tier councils have declared their proposals to plan to hike council tax by at least 4.99% in April, according to analysis by the County Council's network. End of quotation. And as I also mentioned in that article, was the fact that a number of UK councils are facing bankruptcy, and for example, Croydon Council, Woking Council, and Birmingham Council, which is one of the biggest local authorities in the country, have all gone bankrupt, and many others are expected to go bankrupt and massively cut services and increase council tax. And of course, this would never happen in People's Korea, a true people-centered socialist country. And no doubt these rises in council tax will impose a big burden on workers and their families. There's no doubt about it. However, there is one country in the world that does not have taxation. The Democratic People's Republic of Korea, or People's Korea, and not only is the DPRK without taxation, but on the 21st of March, it will be the 50th anniversary of the abolition of taxation in the DPRK. So People's Korea has been without taxation for 50 years. This is an incredible achievement, that no one should be allowed to dismiss. On the 21st of March, 1974, the Supreme People's Assembly of the Democratic People's Republic of Korea decided as follows, and I quote, "Number one, the tax system, a vestige of the old society, shall be abolished completely. Number two, the Administration Council of the DPRK shall take measures to implement the law. And three, the law shall be effective from the 1st of April, 1974. This was in accordance with Article 33 of the 1972 Socialist Constitution of the DPRK. The abolition of taxation in the DPRK had originally been put forward at the Fourth Congress of the Workers' Party of Korea in 1961, and in 1962, Comrade sorry. 1962, Comrade Kim Jong-il gave a talk to students about the abolition of, wrote an article about the abolition of taxation in the DPRK. So it was, it was something that was put forward in the DPRK in the early 1960s. Thus, in the period 1964 to 1966, peasants were freed from agricultural tax in kind. Only income tax and local authority tax remained. By the 1970s, taxes accounted for only a small fraction of state revenue. The DPRK's far-reaching and ambitious social welfare program was instead funded from the profits of state-owned industry. Thus, in the spring of 1974, the DPRK completely abolished taxation and at the same time reduced prices by 30% on average, a truly epochal measure for raising living standards. When I see the soaring prices in the shops in Britain, I think how wonderful People's Korea is, because it reduced prices instead of putting them up all the time. President Kim Il-sung said, and I quote, "The abolition of the tax system in our country is the brilliant victory of the great JUCHE idea, as well as a demonstration of the incomparable advantages of our socialist system, which is an embodiment of the JUCHE idea and the great capability of our socialist, independent national economy. Thanks to the immortal JUCHE, dear, and its brilliant victory, our people have been provided with a richer, independent, and creative life in the socialist land of happiness, where there is no exploitation, oppression, or taxation. End of quotation. The abolition of taxation by the DPRK was a truly people-orientated measure, which was an example of the great JUCHE in action. It was a measure that was only possible under the JUCHE-based advanced socialist system of people's career. In countries like Britain, many people wrongly associate taxation with socialism, largely because they confuse social democracy with socialism when the two are different things. In Britain, social democratic regimes raised taxes to fund social reforms instead of funding them through the redistribution of wealth and income. Thus, workers in capitalist countries, in addition to being exploited by capitalist employers, are also exploited by the capitalist state. However, in people's career, there is no income tax or council tax. Let's look forward to another 50 years of tax-free, people-centered socialism in people's career. And so and the other third subject I'm just going to sort of touch on for a bit is that of anti-DPRK propaganda. And recently, I think today, the Daily Telegraph and a couple of newspapers were citing some report from somewhere about the DPRK allegedly reinforcing or building a border fence with the border with China. And, the only evidence they put forward for this was actually a picture that actually turned out to be from 2015. But I mean, let's, give them the benefit of the doubt and assume that this is true. I don't think it actually is, but even if it is true, surely it is the right of the DPRK, its independent and sovereign right to actually control its own borders. It's not up to the US or the UN or the UK to tell the DPRK that it cannot secure its borders. And I think it's if it has really happened, I think the measure is fully justified to provide security for JUCHE-orientated socialism and sort of defend people's career against the intrusion by hostile forces in to the DPRK. And if you remember what happened with the former German Democratic Republic, how that opened its border and the Berlin Wall came down. The disastrous results of that, which were truly horrendous and disastrous, because it created mass unemployment and poverty in the GDR. And the imperialists, they want the same thing to happen to the DPRK. They want the DPRK to be forced in to reform and opening up. They want it to open its borders and open up to capitalism and the destruction of the socialist system. So, I mean, we reject this kind of rubbishy criticism from the imperialists, and people in people's career have the right to work. They have free housing, they have free healthcare, free education. As I said above, taxation was abolished. So, there's no need for them to actually, go and seek their fortune in another country. So, you know, uh, this, uh, uh, criticism of the DPRK, or slander, I should say, is just nonsense. Anyway, I'm going to conclude there. Thank everyone for listening, and I will take about half an hour of questions. If you put questions on the in the chat, I will sort of answer them in due course. Right. Well, hoping people will put a few questions. I don't know if there is a lag because I'm using StreamYard. Someone has put that the Google account is back. Right. Okay. Well, a good question. What is the JUCHE policy on exports and imports? Well, in a famous speech made in 1967, President Kim Il Sung put forward the line, basically, to produce as much as possible at home, but to import those items that either could not be produced at home, because JUCHE is not autarky. It's recognised that there are some things that cannot be produced in the DPRK, and these have to be obtained through foreign trade, and also to import things where there is not a big demand for. So basically, in a nutshell, it is basically trying to limit imports and not over rely on imports for the economy. And respected Marshal Kim Jong-un himself also said, the DPRK should avoid importing as much as possible. He criticised some people for heavily relying on imports, and he put forward the strategy of self-development first. As to exports, DPRK does try to export to different trading partners, that are willing to trade with the DPRK. But of course, sanctions make it difficult. Some key products of the DPRK have been banned from export or have been severely limited by the UN or the UN Security Council sanctions, if you like. So, these various caps on DPRK exports have been applied. The DPRK is a big coal producer, but I think they have been limited in the amount of coal they can export. Anyway, that's basically, in a nutshell, about the JUCHE policy on imports and exports. Okay, next question, please. Aha, right. Russian DPRK weapon trade. Well, this is like an allegation against the DPRK, that there's even DPRK ICBMs or short or medium range ballistic missiles being used in Ukraine by Russian forces. No evidence for this has actually been put forward. And in 2022, the DPRK actually did publicly deny it was sending either troops or or weapons to Russia. But of course, yes, if there was such trade, it would of course be against the UN sanctions. Right. Do you think the DPRK will reopen to tourism to the level it had before COVID and the lockdown? Well, I think the DPRK is step by step reopening, and I think it will probably return to the levels that existed before COVID-19. It will return to those levels that it was in 2019, but this will be a slow process. It may not be until next year that the DPRK is fully open. And I certainly remember visiting the DPRK in 2018, the 70th anniversary of the foundation of the DPRK, and it was packed out. There was a huge number of delegations. You even had famous people there like Gerard Depardieu and the late Hans Modrow, who I believe was the last prime minister of the GDR or second to last prime minister of the GDR. You had people like that there, and it was absolutely packed out. But yeah, I I think basically, these it's going to be by the end of this year or next year that it's fully open, but I'm sure it will return to the levels pre 2020. Okay, next question, please. Okay, well, I'm waiting for the questions. Well, basically, the only currency that in the DPRK that is used by DPRK citizens is the Korean won. Of course, for tourists, for foreigners, they can, uh, use Chinese currency. The hotels take either Chinese currency or the euro. Uh, but yes, for ordinary Koreans, it would be the Korean won, and the DPRK tightened up the regulations on the use of foreign currencies in the DPRK. Okay, and take a few more questions. Hope people have got some questions. Well, basically, the restrictions were that DPRK citizens are not allowed to hold foreign currencies. Yeah, I mean, yeah, just responding to the point about the cover picture. Yes, that was created by a female artist, member of KFA, who's an artist and creator, and she, at my request, created that picture, which, yeah, I think is quite good. Well, while I wait for a few more questions, I I think there's just talk a bit about you know, forthcoming activities. We're going to have another film evening at the end of March, and we will also early in April, possibly at the end of March, ideally early in April, have another of the Q&A sessions that people have been, uh, you know, people, some people have attended, and we might well go for a real life meeting early in April. Anyway, our good question has come up. Right, I'll just read that carefully. I think Kim Il Sung said this when reunification was still a possibility. He said that the South might be less socialist during the integration. This does not affect socialism as seen in the USSR. Well, I think for for a long time, the DPRK had the two systems, one country uh, approach. Of basically, after reunification, the capitalist system in the South was going to be, more or less left intact, though US troops would be expelled. And so there'd be no foreign domination, and an independent an independent economy would be built. However, that policy has now been about, it's now been abandoned. But yeah, I mean, basically, uh, the DPRK was always aware that it couldn't sort of create instant socialism in the South. This had to come from the South Korean people themselves. Basically, I hope that answers the question. And yeah, and just to add to that, yeah, I mean, the DPRK was always committed to preserving its socialist system and not introducing the capitalist system. Right. Is it true that the people of the DPRK use cannabis as a substitute for tobacco? No, it's not true. This was a fake story that was created years ago by Vice magazine, and I think certain companies involved in tourism in the DPRK also were sort of keen to try and fan this myth, no doubt hoping to sell tours to the DPRK to druggies. But it is basically not true. Drug use is strictly prohibited in the DPRK. You cannot buy cannabis in the DPRK. I've never seen anyone on drugs in the DPRK, never seen anyone stoned. I've never smelt the awful smell of cannabis in the DPRK. And I once asked my guide, Miss Lee, who was my guide in 2015, 2016. I said, well, they say that you can buy cannabis in the DPRK, and she said it's just not true at all, and added that drugs were a problem of capitalist society. People in the DPRK do not need drugs. Right. Right, so there's a comment from a from a friend from Vietnam. DPRK should make more films and increase its influence. South Korean puppets use K-drama and K-pop to spread influence and culture. Well, there is no culture in South Korea. It's just total rubbish. But yeah, I do agree they've been trying to use K-pop as a means of trying to spread South Korean influence. The DPRK has a powerful film industry. I've actually been to the Korean film studio. It has several film studios. Well, you've got the Korean film studio. You've also got the April 25th studio, which is like a KPA film studio, and you've got the SEK animation studio that has made the famous series Squirrels and Hedgehogs, and also Bunny Brothers Defeat the Wolf. So DPRK is hitting back. The problem is, I think, is that Western media networks won't show DPRK films and cartoons, and I think this is something that needs to be addressed. Needs to be addressed. So we can actually get content from the DPRK into Western TV networks. And really, the Western countries, the imperialist countries, have become more closed over the years because, not wishing to draw attention to my age, but when I grew up, we actually could see dramas from Yugoslavia, from Czechoslovakia, from Poland, I believe, and from Romania, where there was an entertaining children's drama where the Securitate were the heroes, and nowadays, British TV certainly wouldn't show anything from the DPRK or other socialist states. Right. Okay, 3 more questions. How much importance should nationalism play within the JUCHE idea? Well, I mean, this is a question that comes up all the time, and we've dealt with it at our Q&A meetings. And I would recommend Comrade Kim Jong-il's work on correctly understanding nationalism. Basically, the JUCHE idea basically combines the national and international tasks of the working class. I mean, it doesn't dismiss all nationalism. It supports progressive anti-imperialist nationalism, but condemns bourgeois nationalism. I think it's fair to say that as a young man when he was formulating the JUCHE idea. The great leader, President Kim Il Sung, did incorporate uh, elements of what was called Chi-won, or aim high, which was sort of a sort of nationalist ideology, aiming at liberating the Korean nation. And going on, where can you watch DPRK media? Well, I mean, there's different YouTube channels that show DPRK media. Off the top of my head, there's Pac2. There's different like Western YouTube channels that show DPRK content, but these are being cracked down upon. And there's some websites that show DPRK media. And we also in KFA UK, we hold the film nights, as does, I believe, KFA Germany. Right. Not a DPRK related question. Who do you think handled the monarch question better, the Soviets or the Chinese? Well, I'm not 100% sure what you're referring to. Guessing here, I think this probably concerns the liquidation of the last Tsar and his family. In the just after the October Revolution, and in China, the so-called last emperor, who an Italian film producer made the epic film about, about the emperor, who actually sold out the country. He ends up being re-educated and becoming an ordinary Chinese citizen. And I wouldn't sort of say that one approach was better and than the other one. I think both were products of the circumstances, the historical circumstances, and I think often people do take things out of historical context. With Russia, the Tsar and his family had brutally oppressed the Russian people. The Russian people, and also, the danger was of the counter-revolutionaries, what the so-called Russian whites, actually trying to use the Tsar as a figurehead. So that was what really brought about his demise. Whereas it was a different in China, and they were able to re-educate the last emperor. So I hope that answers the question. Right. Right. Well, with regard to the other questions that have just come up from our Korean American friend here. Yes, we could have a sort of overseas Korean on the show. Yeah, I mean, we could do that. There is no DPRK ambassador to the US. The US and DPRK do not have diplomatic relations. So that's not possible. And I cannot answer for KFA USA. I suggest you contact them again, and I will also contact them. Possibly there's people here from KFA USA watching this, so they will become aware of this. Yes, well, about DPRK movies, we are showing them at our film nights. About a few weeks ago, we showed One Day, One Night. And the other, DPRK TV is very different to the West. They don't have soap operas. They don't have commercial advertising. Their TV is socialist realist. I mean, they do have, uh, you know, different sort of drama shows and a lot of historical dramas as well, like the Bulletproof Wall. And, they will have programs showing the vibrant reality of socialism in people's career. And yeah, I mean, totally agree that the sanctions against people's career should be ended. I mean, they are an act of war, they're economic warfare against the DPRK and a barrier to the development of friendly relations between the DPRK and peoples of different countries. Okay, well, I'll take another 15 minutes of questions and then conclude the live broadcast. I think so far it's been quite good. We've got had quite a few questions. I mean, hope people are finding it useful and even enjoying it. Yeah, I mean the DPRK, the Socialist Patriotic Youth League, has sent a uh, big delegation to the World Festival of Youth and Students in Russia. And let us not forget that Pyongyang itself hosted the 13th World Festival of Youth and Students in 1989. But yeah, I mean, there was a DPRK delegation at the World Youth Festival, and Chris Bouvet of KFA USA has actually been at the World Youth Festival, and he had his picture taken with a DPRK delegate. Well, the relationship between People's Korea and South Korea is one of hostility. The DPRK defines South Korea as the number one enemy of the DPRK. And as far as I know, there is no communication between the two. And the situation is now very, very tense as the US and South Korea have just started war drills, which involve practicing invading the DPRK and toppling the socialist system and regime change. And to our eternal shame, British forces are participating in this. I mean, this is something absolutely terrible, and I think we should be doing more to expose the role of Britain on the Korean Peninsula, because it is not it is a very bad one they're playing, in supporting the reactionary South Korean puppets. And there's a number of other puppet states and vassals of imperialism, US imperialism, involved in the exercises, such as Australia and Thailand, just to name a few. Yeah, basically, it's one of extreme hostility. And as say, uh, the South are carrying out war exercises, and as you would have seen in case in a, the DPRK has also carried out its own counter exercises, and there was a very impressive artillery drill, which I think showed the power of the JUCHE-based armed forces of People's Korea. Right. After the Sino-Soviet split, what were the DPRK's relations like with the rest of the communist world? I know that the DPRK withdrew its university students from East Germany, but that's it. Well, in uh, in fact, it's a lot more complicated than that. I think the DPRK did temporarily withdraw its students from a number of countries, like the GDR, which, not dismissing the achievements of the GDR in housing and full employment, was, actually still a revisionist state. After all, it was revisionist, and this affected the DPRK's relations with it. But, uh, you know, once tensions were smoothed over, DPRK university students, returned to a number of, countries like the GDR and Soviet Union, and were studying in those countries. In terms of relations with the world communist movement, the DPRK and Workers' Party of Korea took an independent stance, and a stance of condemning both modern revisionism and left opportunism. They maintained relations with both the USSR and China. However, the DPRK did not participate in the 1969 World Communist Conference in Moscow, because it felt, it would be, uh, sort of participating in the widening of divisions in the world communist movement, and it would basically be against China. So it didn't participate in that, and that's a fact. And DPRK did all it could to maintain good relations with communist parties. If you watch uh, the documentary about President Kim Il Sung meeting foreign heads of state, uh, you will see several Communist Party delegations going to meet him. Uh, so, he did maintain very good relations with a lot of communist parties, but there were periods of tension. You know, uh, for example, uh, President Kim Il Sung refused to visit the Soviet Union in 1975. There was sort of rocky relations, and there wasn't an improvement in relations until the big tour President Kim Il Sung did in 1984 of the Soviet Union, Poland, and GDR and other countries. But once perestroika and glasnost set in the Soviet Union, the DPRK's relationship with the USSR and those parties that followed the USSR rapidly deteriorated. And of course, lastly, I should mention the 1992 Pyongyang Declaration, let us defend and advance the cause of socialism, which was put forward by the WPK to revive the international communist movement and socialist forces. Well, I mean, with Yugoslavia and Tito, initially, again, it's a complicated subject. Initially, the DPRK was quite negative, because at the time, the socialist camp was totally united. There was a unified socialist bloc, and sort of Tito seemingly turned his back on it, and also accepted martial aid. So the DPRK was very critical of Tito for a long time. However, Yugoslavia came to play an important role in the non-aligned movement, and also reached out to the DPRK and China, and also reversed some of its positions that it had taken. It took actually good positions on a number of things. Relations between Yugoslavia and the DPRK improved, and there were meetings between Marshal Tito and President Kim Il-sung. In the end, the opinion was positive. Okay, we've got time for one more question. Okay. Okay. Well, no other questions. DPRK Iran relations. DPRK has good relations with Iran and supports Iran against US imperialism. That's basically the relationship between Iran and the DPRK. Right, I'll just wait for one last question and then I will move to close the session. Okay, well, I'm seeing no further questions. So I'll just use the time to just make a few announcements. People may know that we have an active publishing program. That is one of my books, Career of JUCHE, which is a sort of general overview of the DPRK and its ideology, system, and policies. And I would strongly recommend this book, The Great Conspiracy Against People's Career, which we've published. I mean, this is the this one's actually the original edition from 2021, but we've published an expanded edition of it in 2023. We've got an expose of NK News in it, but that's just a very tiny part of it. We look at the whole effort of US and Western imperialism to try and destroy the socialist system. I'll put a link in a minute in the chat to where you can buy the books. And yeah, just response to the question about BRICS. I mean, that came up the other night when we had a Q&A, and I think whilst the DPRK has positive praise of BRICS, it's as it were a counter block to the US. At the same time, there's no actual plans by the DPRK, as far as I know, to actually join BRICS, because the DPRK does not join blocs. It maintains independence, and in the past, it was not a member of the Council for Mutual Economic Assistance or the Warsaw Pact. So, as far as I know, is there's no plan by the DPRK to join BRICS. Possibly it might look to work closely with BRICS countries. I mean, it has good relations with some of the countries in BRICS, like Russia and China, but I think at this stage it is unlikely to join BRICS. I've just put a link to my author spots on lulu.com. Just 1 minute. Right, okay. Well, we're going to call it a day now. Thank everybody for their questions. Thank everybody for participation. I think we've had a good level of participation. It's been great to be here. We've dealt with all sorts of questions. So, we'll be back in 2 weeks, and hopefully next on, I'm hoping to get the joint participation with other KFA UK officials and possibly people from other KFA branches. But, I think this is going well. I think it's useful. So we're going to continue with this. So I wish everybody a very good evening, and I will see everybody again in 2 weeks. And probably I might do 1 or 2 videos on the channel before then. So have a good evening, stay safe, and have a great weekend. Goodbye.